Summertime is upon us, and with that comes a cruise 3 years after our last one to celebrate a family member's birthday. The cruise line we took this time was Azamara, and the itinerary took us to several parts throughout Greece. Enjoy. Although the majority of the cruise is in Greece, the ship actually departs from Turkey first. We had a full day of exploring Istanbul before boarding the ship the next day. There is going to be a handful of cats featured throughout this recap just because of the sheer number of cats we saw throughout the trip. We actually kept tally of how many we saw just out of curiosity, and I'll reveal the approximate number at the end. Our first stop was the Hagia Sophia, a famous mosque. Unfortunately, it is undergoing renovations right now, so it did dampen the look a bit. Here you can see the Blue Mosque, which sits across the fountain from the Hagia Sophia. It was closed for prayer during the time that we visited, so we didn't go in. Before heading back to the hotel for a break, I did grab a doner kebab. I remember wishing I had more time to grab another one before we left the city because it was that good. We pre-gamed our cruise with a sightseeing river cruise. As someone who grew up in the Bay Area, I couldn't help but be reminded of the Golden Gate Bridge once this bridge glowed up at night. After that, we had a late dinner and got ready for the exciting embarkation the next morning. After boarding, we checked our stuff into our room, and our first order of business was eating lunch. Honestly, the buffet dining hall food wasn't really anything to write home about. As the trip progressed, we actually started gravitating towards the fine dining restaurant more, since I enjoyed the food there more. We took in the city and ocean view as the ship departed, and then later that night attended the welcome show. Gonna take this time to briefly talk about the entertainment on the ship. It was honestly a little hard for us to enjoy our time on the ship when we weren't either eating or out in the port city exploring. Activities were very clearly catered towards older people, and we could tell because music trivia questions were all about artists from the 80s and 90s. And yes, trivia events were pretty much the only things we attended. The fact that we were just playing board games when we weren't at one of those tells you all you need to know about what we thought about the ship activities. Anyway, let's get to day 3. Our group decided on visiting the city of Troy. Walked around town to explore while waiting for the rest of the group to get ready, and there wasn't much to do or see, so it almost felt like you have to do a half-day trip just to make your day worth it. Other than Troy, the other option for a day trip would be Gallipoli, which is a World War I memorial site that you can see in the distance here. This is the Trojan horse prop used in the 2004 Troy movie. And after about a 45-minute drive, we arrived to the ruins of Troy. I'ma be real, I get that this is a historically significant place, but it's hard to feel any awe when all that's left are blocks that no longer portray the former civilization in any way. I was, however, more entertained by the museum portion of the site. The whole family got together for dinner. Here we were having a laugh because this was actually the 3rd birthday cake they have given her so far during the cruise, and apparently the crew members were not keeping track. Here we are with day 4 in Thessaloniki. This was the only port stop that stayed overnight, so we had quite some time here. During the first part of the day, we did a hop-on, hop-off tour bus to see the White Tower and an overlook near the Heptapyrgion Tower. We ended up going back to the ship and had an early dinner, but we felt like we didn't truly get the chance to go out and explore the city, so we did just that. This time we were able to check out things we weren't able to earlier, such as the Arch of Galerius and Rotunda. Because this was an overnight port stop, it gave us the opportunity to experience the nightlife here as we explored the city center and grabbed drinks while sitting outside. For our second day in Thessaloniki, we had a private tour guide take us to Mount Olympus, which was about an hour and a half to 2 hours away. We thought it would be cool to visit the home of the gods, as Greek mythology described it. The tour guide was saying that he knew spots that normally tourists would not know about, and honestly, he stood on business because there were barely any other people for all the stops we visited. First stop was a remote pool and a waterfall area. Then we went to a quiet monastery also tucked away in the mountains. After that, he took us to an area where we could do an actual hike, but that was very short-lived because of the horse poo and persistent insects. We drove back down the mountain to eat lunch at the nearest town, which you can see here. Before we did that though, he took us to a beautiful overlook to see the valley of Mount Olympus. There was also another small pool near that overlook. This was our first meal since the cruise that wasn't on the ship, and we had to see what authentic Greek food was like. Of course, there were some cats running game by being all cute near us to get some food. Back to the cruise after that. And for dinner, I had duck breast, which was one of the few things on the ship that I actually really enjoyed. As if the previous day wasn't packed enough, we also had a long day ahead of us on this day. That's because we did another private tour guide to go see Meteora, which was also 2 hours away. This is a really popular destination featuring several monasteries built on top of these really tall pillars, which allowed the monks back then to be safe from raids and invasions. After visiting 2 of the monasteries, we had lunch on our way back from the mountain. And for dinner, here I am with the 3 entrees I ordered. We took a tender boat to get to town, and you can see the ship floating in the middle here. Mykonos is a trendy town known for its blue and white aesthetics and clubbing scene. Unfortunately, this was not an overnight stop, so the clubbing wasn't feasible and we just chose to lounge around at beaches for the majority of our time here. We didn't spend too long at the first beach because the ocean floor was full of jagged rocks and I actually ended up getting some cuts on my foot. The second beach that was next to the day club was much better for swimming though. After the swimming, we walked around town to admire the alleys and shop around a bit. The ship had a white night theme in which everyone dresses in white and a huge dinner is thrown in celebration. The guy serving lobster tails definitely recognized me from how often I kept going back for more. Our last port day was Nafplio, and you had to take another tender boat to get there. This was the most relaxing of the port days simply because we chose not to go anywhere. We just walked around town. I didn't mind this because I love admiring the European architecture of balconies on colored buildings. I also never fail to be fascinated by how prominent outdoor seating is in their culture. But you could already tell from all the previous clips. For our last dinner on board, we splurged and did the premium dinner option. To make our money's worth, your boy had to order 4 entrees, which I had no problem finishing. Not sure if that's a good or bad thing. Here we are at our destination, Athens. We said our goodbyes to the ship and started our day of exploration, starting with Agora, a place formerly known for public gatherings. Very cool to actually still see statues and buildings standing, unlike Troy. And here is a model of what it looked like back then, followed by a model of what the Acropolis, which is where we went to next, looked like. Acropolis, as you can see, was very packed, but that was to be expected for such an iconic site. I will say that we each paid 50 euros for both locations, which felt very steep for historical sites. But it's not like we came here just to not see them, so what were we gonna do? We later watched as the sun set on the Acropolis, then grabbed the drinks at a rooftop bar with the Acropolis visible in the distance. It was cool that it was always visible from afar, no matter what part of town we were at. Not much for our last day. Took it easy with some walking around, flea market shopping, food, and one last rooftop bar session. Now here are my closing thoughts. I touched on this earlier, but as a 30-year-old, I wouldn't do this cruise again. Seeing that everyone was a senior made us feel out of place, and the fact that there weren't really activities for people my age definitely didn't help either. All that, in conjunction with the quality of food, had me missing our previous cruise line, Virgin Voyages. As for my experiences in Istanbul and Athens, it was a little hard to enjoy the cuisine since there's quite a few things that I don't eat from it. Don't get me wrong though, in spite of those things, I still had a really good time. Oh, and the total approximate number of cats we saw was 266. Alright, that's it for now. See y'all later.